Hello and welcome back to the GB Fantasy Football channel. In today's video, we're going to be looking at those highly owned players in goalkeeper, defence, attack and midfield, seeing if we can possibly go against the tide, maybe even provide a few differentials along the way, seeing where and where not to go against the huge ownership. Now, once again, thank you very much for the support on the channel. We are rapidly approaching 750 subscribers, and once again, I just can't be. I can't even put into words how much it really means. And we're going forward. We're progressing as a channel. We're getting more viewers through the door each day. More eyes on Sun Dream Team as a fantasy game, and that can only be a good thing. Please do hit the subscribe button if you like today's content. Hit the thumbs up as well, so we can spread the channel across the social sphere, and hit the bell button if you'd like to drop those videos into your subscriber box so you don't miss out on any of the uploads. And without further ado, let's crack on with the video. So as mentioned in the introduction, today we're going to be looking at ownerships across all sorts of positions on Sun Dream Team, where and where not to possibly take it on, because ownership is a massive thing in this game. If you don't have a player and he's owned by the majority of the player base, if that player then goes on to score lots of points within the game week, your rank and just overall place in those leaderboards will plummet drastically. This is where you have to be smart, think tactically, and potentially just go with the crowd for a little bit. When the game kicks off, normally this year being a slight different play style, I assume, the template is a template for a reason. And I know you hear that across many other fantasy games, but there is a reason for that. You go with certain assets, you keep them close to your chest, and then you progress further. You maybe take one or two of them out along the way and go down your own route. That's the template that I tend to go down. I know many of you who are watching this video might go against that. They might just go full differential. I know there's a few people out there who like a challenge and only have one player from each team. And I really, playing the game that way must be completely stress free. And I envy that quite considerably. But we'll have a little look. Before I go any further, the league code will be underneath my camera, just a little bit below. So down there. That is my Sun Dream Team League code. Go join. We've got people coming in daily, lots of numbers in there. There'll be lots of competition to see who comes out on top towards the end of the year, and bragging rights throughout, no doubt. So, as you can see on the screen, we've got the goalkeepers up first. I think we've got 6 players from each position, and we'll be looking at the overall ownership from the game at the end. And that will be thanks to not only FPL, it's a fantastic website for all things fantasy games. I go on there for some Dream Team content. When the season kicks off, it's really good for price changes. It's really good for seeing how players have accumulated bonus points. So go over there, check it out. They're doing some fantastic stuff over there. It's a really good website. But as you can see on your screen, these are currently the 6 highest goalkeepers owned in the game. And it's interesting to see how the split is across some premium assets with regards to goalkeepers and some maybe mid-range as well. So first up, we've got Kelleher of Brentford. Now, surprisingly, he missed the last pre-season game for them with a suspected knock, so it's definitely one to look out for. If not for 3 million, I actually think he's a decent goalkeeper. I don't think he'll play the League Cup game in the game week 2 fixture. I think Valdemarson will play that. He's a semi-decent backup. He played in that game last season for Brentford, so I can't see Kelleher playing that one. But for 3 million, I can see why some people have defaulted to that. I actually think he's the highest owned goalkeeper in FPL as well. Next up, we've got Robert Sanchez. Now, it did look like for a long time Chelsea were going to purchase a goalkeeper. I think my man Jan from AC Milan was touted. Those transfer rumours have gone away. Sanchez is seemingly number one, and Chelsea's opening few fixtures across the first 5 to 8 game weeks are really solid. It seems like they firmed up at the back a little bit. Once again, kept a clean sheet in their first and only so far pre-season game yesterday. So for 3.5 million, I can see why people have drifted towards him. We've got Alisson Becker of Liverpool, a really highly priced asset here at 4.5 million. Is owned by over 9% of the game. To me, far too expensive for a goalkeeper at this time of year. When you consider the assets outfield that you can get for 4.5 million, and how we've spoken about in previous videos, the points for me are in the outfield players, certainly at the top end of the pitch. I don't see value for money there at all. We've got Matt Sells of Nottingham Forest. yes, scoring goals in pre-season has very much been an issue for Forest. I think today marked their 6th pre-season game, and in all 6 they've only scored 1 goal. But in those 6 games they have kept 4 clean sheets, which is no surprise after going over the defensive data for Forest last season. Of course, Sells got joint Golden Glove with David Raya. Next up, himself, David Raya. For 4.5 million, similar to Alisson, I don't see value for money when you consider other Arsenal assets that are 4.5 million, even 4.5 million attackers. I'd stay well clear, and 9% of you have selected him. And finally, Jordan Pickford. Everton's fixtures, I think they've got Leeds, they've got another couple of decent fixtures that follow that. They're one to look out for, but for 3.5 million, I don't see it. I think 3 million for me would be the absolute most I'd put into a goalkeeper. Now, for these percentage wise of ownership, we've got between what 7.9 and 10.6 in the top 6 goalkeepers owned. I think you could go against all of these if you've got a viable strategy for a player in the attacking forward positions that could potentially be boosted by an extra 1.5 or 2 million by the funds you save in the goalkeeper position. So personally, I think all of these can be taken on. So first up, we have the defenders. Now, as you can see in the top 6, ownership-wise, there's a few surprising ones along the way. I'll run through them first and then break each one down afterwards. First up, we've got Mickey van der Ven, 18% owned. Burnley at home in the first fixture, 3.5 million. Next up, Marc Cucurella, 4.5 million. Crystal Palace in the opening fixture. Of course, Chelsea have just got back into pre-season, as I mentioned with Robert Sanchez in the previous section. 16.9% owned for Cucurella. Decent option. Jeremy Frimpong, freshly transferred from Bayer Leverkusen. Obviously, is the Trent Alexander-Arnold replacement for Liverpool in this season. There was definite doubt a few weeks back, and I wouldn't have gone there at all. Alas, with a potential injury that we'll speak about in just a few minutes, I think he might have opened up as an option a little bit more. 15.4% owned. Some options, some points there to be had. We'll come back to him. Lewis Skelly, Arsenal, Man United away in the opening fixture, 13.7%. I'm very surprised about this statistic. It's way too high in my opinion as an Arsenal fan. Ryan Ait-Nouri, Wolves away in the opening one, 4.5 million, 13.6% owned, which I actually thought would be a bit higher, all things considered. And finally, Virgil van Dijk at home to Bournemouth in the opening fixture, 5.5 million this season. Very expensive, 12.9% owned. Now that is a surprise. Now breaking them down one by one, Mickey van der Ven, Burnley at home in the opening fixture, 18% owned, way too high. Way too high. For someone like a Jed Spence, who is a similar price, I think he's exactly the same at 3.5. I'd go there. Udogie seems to be injured and he won't be ready for the start of the season. Jed Spence could offer more bonus point potential, certainly tackles he gets stuck in. And Van der Ven is quite partial to an injury. Now, I watched the Tottenham Correspondent Week on Planet FPL. Go check them out. It's a fantastic channel for all things fantasy. And I watched James himself talk about how Tottenham play in the European Super Cup on Wednesday night and their opening Premier League fixture is 3 o'clock on the Saturday afternoon. It's a very tight turnaround. So if you're banking on Van der Ven playing at home to Burnley, I'm not sure he will. Apparently Kevin Danso can fill into that centre-back role with ease. I think it might happen. And if you're banking on that Burnley fixture and he doesn't play, all of a sudden you've got Mickey van der Ven, who struggles for anything other than defensive returns and maybe the occasional tackle return, playing his opening game away to Manchester City. And that is just not what you want. Personally, I'd stay well clear of Van der Ven. Next up, Marc Cucurella. Of course, Chelsea have only just come back in pre-season. He played, I think, 45 or 60 minutes for Chelsea in that game. I think currently he's lining up more of a left centre-back in that system with Gusto and James playing the right-back role more advanced. Cucurella does get forward occasionally, he breaks into the box, but I had him in one of my first initial drafts and it seems he's a little bit more defensive than I'd like him to be for 4.5 million, but certainly one to look out for when the European fixtures roll around, especially with Chelsea being in the Champions League this campaign. Jeremy Frimpong, now a few weeks back he would have been fighting with Conor Bradley for that right back role, but it seems Bradley's picked up a knock. Of course, we'll see Liverpool in the Community Shield against Crystal Palace on Sunday. So if Frimpong's getting forward, he's getting into those attacking positions, creating chances. I think 5 million is still just a smidge too expensive. I think 4.5, similar to Cucurella, he'd be well worth it. It's worth considering that Liverpool had 3 clean sheets out of the first 4 game weeks last season. Can they replicate that form with Arsenal in the first 3 and a couple of other decent and difficult fixtures mixed into there? I'm not too sure. It's worth a punt, but I think there's better value elsewhere. Lewis Skelly, as an Arsenal fan, stay well clear in my opinion. Our best back four is Jurriën Timber, Saliba, Gabriel and Calafiori at left back. It was quite telling in the last friendly against Athletic Bilbao that was the back four and Skelly started on the bench. I think Skelly offers decent attacking threat. He beats a man. He's good for bonus points where he's constantly getting fouled and falling on the floor. But I wouldn't play him. I think Calafiori is a better left back. Skelly is still raw. He's still got a lot to learn in that role. He's quite error prone. 4 million would have been a great entry point to that Arsenal defence. But with Man United away and Liverpool away in the first 3 game weeks, yes, they do have Leeds at home in the second fixture. I'd still be saying clear of Skelly. Aït-Nouri definitely one to look out for. Of course, Manchester City have only just played their first pre-season friendly, same as Chelsea, was late back from the Club World Cup. If Aït-Nouri can get forward and play that left wing role like he was in the Club World Cup, he'd be one to look out for, even with the looming threat of Pep Roulette knocking around in the background. And of course, Virgil van Dijk, similar to Frimpong, Bournemouth at home. I think they've got Arsenal at home in the first 3 with a tricky second away fixture. 5.5 million for a defender that would struggle for things such as attacking threat, bar the odd corner. I've actually seen him take a free kick recently, but I don't think he will be on them despite being really good in his Celtic days. For 5.5 million, 13% owned basically, stay clear. You can get better value money elsewhere. And yeah, I think pumping that 5.5 million into a midfielder or an attacker, you can definitely challenge that ownership wise. Working our way into that midfield 6, we're suddenly getting to those premium assets and those big hitters. This is where you see a lot of people pumping their money, that 50 million budget spent wisely and into the attack that we'll get to soon enough. But the midfield 6 are as follows for ownership wise. Cole Palmer, 51% owned. Crystal Palace in the first fixture, 6 million price range. Good asset. Florian Wirtz at home to Bournemouth, brand new to the league, same as Jeremy Frimpong, coming from the same club. It'd be intriguing to see how he settles into that Liverpool lineup, all things considered, how he work with attacking talent like Gakpo, of course, Ekitike, a new signing, and how he will link up with Mo Salah on the right hand side, what sort of creativity he's got. It could very quickly jump up from that 28% owned into 30-40% if he scores an assist and gets some good points in that opening fixture. We've then got Bukayo Saka away to Man United in the first fixture, 6.5 million, making him the most expensive asset in that midfield range this season, surprisingly actually, considering how much time he spent on the sideline from January onwards. 23.5% owned, quite surprising, but with so many avenues to points, that is probably why they've gone on that front. Bruno Fernandes, Arsenal at home in the opening fixture. I think they've got Fulham away and then Burnley at home in the first 3, with, of course, a potential double in game week 2 for him in the Carabao Cup, with Man United not having any European football this season. 20.4%. I think he once again got an assist in their friendly today from a corner. Taking set pieces, still is on the majority of free kicks. He's on corners. He's still on the penalties. He will be playing a deeper role, but that might actually help his bonus point potential, racking up from 5 to 8 into the next bracket of 12 bonus points, of course, getting that maximum 5 points. We've then got Anthony Elanga of Newcastle, a surprising one slipping into this list. He's a shiny new toy. It was in my first draft, but that's when I actually thought Isak was going to be a Newcastle player going forward. 14.5% owned. Aston Villa away in the opening fixture is a tricky one for Newcastle. And Brian Mbeumo, 5.5 million. Arsenal at home in the opening fixture and 14.5% owned. Surprising, I think a lot of people have gone on his Brentford days. but we'll get to each one in a minute. Cole Palmer, fantastic asset for Chelsea. There's a reason he's 51% owned. I actually think he's either first or second on the highest ownership overall for the entire player base so far. Cole Palmer in August is always a threat for some reason. It must be the sun on his back, gets into his system, and he's just producing magic. If he can score 3 or 4 in that first 3 fixtures, maybe even 2 or 3 goal attacking returns with Champions League football around the corner compared to last season when he wasn't playing in that, I think Cole Palmer could quickly rise to 6.5, 7 million, and you don't want him to get out of reach. Florian Wirtz, there's a lot of unknown currently with him, so are we staying clear? For those 28% of you currently that have got him in your team, I'm sure you're hoping for a fast start, and with Liverpool, there's not a better team to hope for that from. Saka, bonus points, tackles, constant goal threat. In the fixture today, I think he picked up a goal and an assist in the pre-season game. So it just goes to show there's constant threat when it comes to Saka. If you don't own him in that second fixture at home to Leeds, I think it's behind the chair job. Pray and hope that he doesn't cause too much damage. And with 6.5 million, with a lot of people clearly going for Palmer over him, I think it's that extra 0.5 that's tipping the balance. If they was the same value, I'd actually say the ownership would be really, really close between the two of them. And I'd actually think Saka would edge it. Last season, his points per game was sky high, and I'd expect the same again this season. Bruno Fernandes, Mr. Consistent. If he plays in that Carabao Cup game, 4 fixtures in the opening 3 game weeks, that 6 million price bracket will be well worth it. From Bruno, you're expecting between 4 and 8 points a game. He very rarely blanks. There's shots on target, there's tackle returns, there's big chances created. And I actually think for the 6 million mark, when it comes to Burnley at home in that 3rd fixture, if he gets through and he's away to Fulham in the 2nd game week and he's playing in that 2nd week Carabao Cup fixture, then all of a sudden you're running into Burnley at home. I think that 6 million looks really cheap for Bruno. Anthony Elanga for 4 million. Newcastle look extremely disjointed. Yes, Elanga scored in pre-season against Arsenal, but with a lot of uncertainty in that Newcastle team, I think Anthony Gordon came off with a little niggle today as well, so that's another doubt going into the season. It might actually open up someone like Elanga to play up front. If Gordon is injured, I could see Elanga maybe playing either on the left, Harvey Barnes, you've got Jacob Murphy. So you've got 3 attacking options there that are predominantly wingers. For 4 million, I think it's a wait and see for Newcastle. Maybe pick them up around the European games, wait for their fixtures to turn a little bit better. But for 14.5% of you that currently own him, there is huge potential there, as we all know. And Brian and Bremo, I actually think this is way too high at 14.5%. In pre-season, he's currently not looking 100%. He's not looking match sharp. 5.5 million, of course, that would have gone off his Brentford form in the last campaign. But there's big differences now. And Bremo won't be on the set pieces as much. He certainly won't be taking penalties. I think free kicks, maybe from the right-hand side of the pitch, being left-footed, he might take a few. But you're taking away a lot of point scoring potential compared to what he had at Brentford. You're taking away his star player role as such. Maybe you can build to that into the Manchester United squad. But personally, for 5.5 million, I'd be trying to get that extra 0.5 for Bruno instead. The front 6 ownership wise is as follows. Mohamed Salah is actually the 2nd highest owned player in the game now. He's actually dropped below Cole Palmer's 51%, which is a big surprise, all things considered. Salah, Bournemouth at home in the opening fixture, 7.5 million, which makes him the highest, well, joint highest price player in the game. João Pedro, brand new signing for Chelsea from Brighton, had a fantastic, I think, final few games for him in the Club World Cup, scoring in the semi-final. I think for 4.5 million, 34.7% owned as well, which makes him very similar ownership wise to a game like FPL where the majority are flocking towards him in high numbers. But for 4.5 million, might be a decent shout. Erling Haaland, joint with Mohamed Salah for the most expensive asset on the game. In August, Erling Haaland, great form, great returns. That's him in a nutshell. Starts quick, normally. Wolves away, 34% owned. I'm actually surprised it's not higher, all things considered. Victor Gyökeres of Arsenal, Man United in the first game, 6 million. Quite pricey in my opinion. 19% owned, and I actually think that's going to sneak up. A goal and an assist in his pre-season game today against Athletic Bilbao. Is that him finding his feet, or is that Arsenal playing a Spanish side that's a few weeks behind Arsenal in pre-season with regards to fitness and form and just sharpness in general? We've then got Jared Bowen, Sunderland away in the opening fixture. In this game, he's always been a forward. Of course, in FPL, he's just gone from a midfielder to a forward. But in this game, he has been categorised as a forward in the past 2 campaigns. 10.1% owned, 5 million in value. Will he play in that second round of the Carabao Cup game? I think that will determine if that 5 million budget is worthwhile. And Mateus Cunha of Manchester United, had to think for a minute there. Gut instinct was kicking in, and I was about to say Wolves. Arsenal at home in the opening game. He will play in one of the number 10 positions just behind what will be Benjamin Sesko now. 5 million, 10.1% owned. We'll get to him in due course. Mohamed Salah, do I need to say anything more about him? If you're expecting a team to score lots of goals in August and get off to a fantastic start in the first 3 games before the first international break, you're thinking Liverpool, you're thinking Man City, you're thinking goals, and there's a reason for that. I think Salah's ownership will sneak up quite a bit before the first deadline, and I actually think captaincy-wise he would be one of the highest candidates against Bournemouth, who currently have no back four, and the goalkeeper's gone. There's a lot of uncertainty with Bournemouth's team. Going forward, still a good team. Defensively wise, they've been ripped to pieces. So I can actually see Liverpool putting quite a few goals past them on the opening day. João Pedro, I think he's playing exceptionally well, but there's always that nagging doubt in the back of my mind of Liam Delap, Liam Delap, Liam Delap. It was Nicholas Jackson. It seems like he is done and dusted at Chelsea now. He's not quite handed in a transfer request, but he's told him his time at the club is basically done. João Pedro, can you get 60 to 70 minutes out of him per game? Will he stay on the pitch for the full 90? Not in my opinion, he won't. I actually think he will be kept fresh. He might slip over to the left-hand side if Delap comes onto the pitch some games. But compared to last season at Brighton, he won't have the penalties. That will be down to Cole Palmer. You don't want another Noni Madueke incident from a few years ago where they're trying to snatch the ball from him. So João Pedro, I think he will get attacking returns, but I'm looking for 90-minute men for their clubs, and personally he isn't one of them. Erling Haaland, Wolves away, I can actually see Man City scoring quite a few goals in this fixture. They've got a decent start fixture-wise in the first 3. 7.5 million, only 34% owned, which doesn't quite make him a differential, but it certainly puts him in the category of if he scores, he's going to boost up the leaderboards. I'm so used to Salah and Haaland being owned by 95 or 99% of owners around me in the leaderboard from last year that seeing these numbers is quite surprising to me still. Personally, Haaland is not quite essential because if you want to differentiate and scatter those funds around the team, it is possible to maybe catch those points up elsewhere. Haaland is normally a goal or nothing kind of player. He doesn't pick up the bonus points, but shots on target, goals, and the occasional assist is more his forte. Victor Gyökeres, now, as I said, he got a goal and an assist against Athletic Bilbao in the pre-season game. Will he play that opening game away to Man United? I initially thought it'd be Kai Havertz, and then he picked up a knock. Gyökeres has taken the striking role with both hands. Has he snatched it away from Havertz? Havertz scored a fantastic goal today. I think he broke from the halfway line, tore away from the defender and slotted it in the bottom corner. So similar to João Pedro, I actually see Gyökeres not quite completing the 90 minutes for at least the first 2 games in the season. And then you run into Liverpool away in the 3rd game. 6 million is very expensive for a new asset to the league. I think he'll do well for Arsenal. Will he play every fixture? No, and for that reason, I steer clear for the time being. Jared Bowen, 5 million. If he plays in the Carabao Cup game, similar to Bruno Fernandes with his price bracket, 5 million is a snip of a price. If he doesn't, you've got Sunderland away and then Chelsea at home. Can he score in that fixture? Will Chelsea be weaker at the back with Levi Colwill, of course, out for the season? A little bit of disruption in their defence. It's possible. Jared Bowen has had a fantastic pre-season. There's not a time that I've not turned it on and he's not had an attacking return or he's not been involved in a big chance, and that's really what you want from a player. 10.1% owned. I think he's kind of veering towards the differential stage at that rate. So you can go against him, but he's one to watch out for. And Mateus Cunha, he won't be on penalties this year at Man United, similar to Embremo. I actually think he's a slightly better asset than Embremo in this game at the minute, 0.5% cheaper. And I think that third striker role is currently up for debate. Maybe two striker roles if you're veering away from Erling Haaland, or even you're one of the 49% who currently don't have Mo Salah in your team. But Cunha, I think he will score very well for Man United. He's newer to that team than you'd hope for, but he knows the system well from his Wolves days, the 3-4-2-1. And I think he actually fits into that number 10 role quite well. Last year, he was incredible for bonus points, attacking returns, and all that good stuff. He outperformed his data substantially, but I think he's got the mentality and he's got the aura and the confidence to thrive in that United team going forward. It'd be intriguing to see how he plays next to a player like Benjamin Sesko, but I'd put him on the one to watch category. If Man United get through that second round of the Carabao Cup fixture that you'd expect, and he plays, which I don't think he will, they've got plenty of options up front. They've got players like Mason Mount. I think Amad Diallo will play a more attacking role in the cup competitions rather than a wing back role. You've got Højlund, you've got Xerxes, you've got lots of players up front that are vying for minutes. But if you can play in that third Carabao Cup fixture, that's when he might become more of an option for me. And finally, to wrap things up, this is a ownership of the overall players on the game currently. This is including some of the players that might have slipped just below the top 6 for each position. Once again, this is on the website, not only FPL, fantastic website. Go check it out for all things data driven. Got all the fancy games over there. Go check it out. It's a good read. Now, a few things that stick out on this one that didn't quite make it in the top 6. You've got players like Mohamed Kudus of Tottenham Hotspur, 12.8% owned, similar to Mickey van der Ven, with if he plays that Burnley game, all of a sudden he's a really great asset. If you're walking into the second game away to Man City, I think 4.5 million might be steep. I actually think if his DEFCON points are anything to go by off FPL currently, he's getting between 8 and 12 a game on that one. So that will actually translate really well into Sun Dream Team for bonus points, tackles wise, ball recoveries, interceptions, all that stuff. So you're not only relying on him for goal returns. From the response of Tottenham fans, it seems he's a bit shot shy when it comes to attacking threat, but he's always one to create. He's always one that's getting involved, and I actually do see him for 4.5 million, especially with players like James Maddison out now for the season. They're a bit reluctant to play Kudus in the number 10 position, but it seems they're trying to accommodate for him. It looks like Brennan Johnson's out on the left-hand side. Kulusevski's out for a while still. So Kudus and that right wing position seem to be nailed going forward. One to watch out for. Maybe slipping into my draft again, but it's one of them ones. You then got Eberechi Eze, 5.5 million for Crystal Palace, 11.8% owned. I actually think if there wasn't as much transfer speculation around him, it'd be into the 20%, certainly 15% owned at least. Last year, incredible for bonus points. He carried that attack at times. There's not a time where you watch Crystal Palace and Eze's not involved in something. He's not involved in a big chance. He's not driving past players. He's incredible for bonus points. But compared to the start of last season when I had him, he was 4.5 million. He played in the Carabao Cup second round game and the Carabao Cup third round game. But this year, with Palace being in the Conference League currently, they did qualify for the Europa League, but got knocked down due to the situation that they're currently in. So will he play in that Conference League fixture when it rolls around in September? I think he actually will, because Palace are hell-bent on winning that competition, which I think they have a fantastic chance to, which will of course put them into the Europa League the following campaign, following what Chelsea did last season. Of course, their squad was a bit stronger, but I can see Eze as an asset, maybe dropping a couple 0.1, 0.2 in the open 2 or 3 fixtures, and then being a much more viable asset going into those European games. But would you put it past him scoring big against Chelsea? I wouldn't. We've then finally got Declan Rice. it looks like in the Arsenal pre-season games, he's playing a little bit deeper than he was last year. He played in that left eight role predominantly with a certain number five in the holding midfield role with Martin Odegaard just in front of him. But with the implementation and the addition of Martin Zubimendi, it looks like in the attacking phases, Zubimendi actually slips into that number eight role with Martin Odegaard, and Declan Rice drops deeper sometimes, which is not what you want from a now £5 million asset. I think last year he was priced, I'm tempted to say around 3.5 to 4 million. So he was worth a punt. Not many of us knew what sort of talent he had sticking free kicks in the top corner, granted, or how incredible his set piece delivery was from corners, which Arsenal hold a great threat from each time, especially with Gabriel getting involved. But 5 million for me is far too steep for a player that could potentially be playing two-thirds of the game as a holding midfielder. It'd be good for tackles. He might still end up in a few attacking areas if he breaks forward in the right play or the right system of the moment, with Zubimendi holding in that attacking. Just I see Declan Rice basically playing holding midfield more often than not, and for me, it's just not worth it. I wish he was, but unfortunately, all the Arsenal assets have been ramped up in price this season after coming second for 3 consecutive years, which is not ideal at all. But they are ones to watch out for. I think the only few that might spring to mind would be Skelly, but as I said, stay away. Declan Rice would have been a tried and trusted asset. Too much this season, and then you've got Bukayo Saka. Can you eke out that 6.5 million? As an Arsenal fan, it pains me, but I might be going without any of them. But that is the ownership overall for the player base so far. I'll be intrigued to see how it changes with the last few weeks. Well, last few days we're into now, with only 6 days before the deadline. I'll be intrigued to see where these ownership numbers end up for each player on the graph currently. And that is it for today's video, I'm afraid. I hope you've enjoyed. It's been slightly different compared to normal, where we've been breaking down the data from not only FPL. Of course, many of you will already be on the website daily, checking it out, breaking down game week scores from the previous campaign, but there'll be a few of you who have not come across the website before, and I think it's interesting and intriguing to guide you towards things that will potentially help you out throughout the season, not just building your draft for that game week one deadline, but throughout the campaign, making you pick and choose between certain players, making it an easier choice throughout. So if you have enjoyed, please do drop a subscribe on the channel. We're touching 750 subscribers, and the big push is to potentially reach 1,000 before the start of the season. It's going to take a big effort, but if we can do it, that'd be greatly appreciated. Drop a thumbs up if you have enjoyed this slightly different content compared to usual, and let me know in the comments down below on how you found this video, if you've taken anything away from it, and if you've gone over to not only FPL and used it for your benefit. All my socials are down in the description below. X, TikTok, and Instagram. Go check them out. All good stuff. And the league code will be down there as well. So, thank you very much for watching, and you'll be seeing me in a new video very soon.